All righty. Let's set up over here. Aiden,
First one on.
my moderator, yeah.
All right.
He works for me. Now you can see why I keep bringing him back. So, it looks like we got 5 people in here. And because I'm sure a lot of you guys who learned about this at last minute are going to be watching it on the repeat, because there's going to be a ton of good information in here anyway, because of the short notice, I understand that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. What's going on, guys? I'm Jake the Lawn Kid. Welcome back to another episode of Lawnfires, where the fires are hot, the lawns are green, and the questions are engaging. Now this week we have something a little different. I'm actually, if you guys can't tell, I'm actually in a different location, let alone a different time zone, which is why the show's 2 hours late. And I am being joined by my good friend, owner of probably one of the best fertilizer manufacturers in the industry, and that is John Perry with Greene County Fertilizer and Lawn Ecology.
What's up, everybody?
How you doing?
I'm just happy to be in my own home.
Me too. In fact, I got a little tired in my own home that I actually had to fly out here.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
So, we need to let the chat fill up a little bit more. So maybe while that happens, I guess we could start by catching up. How you doing, John?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a extremely busy year, and we are in full-on 2020 planning at the moment.
Yep.
Working through our January is a very, very busy month for us. So we're right now going through all of our product guides, getting all of our, what new stuff is out there, website changes, all of that kind of happens in this time between GIE and Christmas.
Yep.
So it's been just a very, very busy year. And it's nice to be home a little bit. I've actually been in my house for the last 25 days, which I think might be the longest streak this year. So that's nice. I got that going for me.
Hang on, I'm just pulling it up so I can see the questions, if there's any coming in. So real quick, while the audience builds up here, for those of you guys who are new here, this is a weekly talk show that I do for an hour every Friday. Fireside, as you can tell, where I take all of your most frequently asked lawn care questions and I answer them live in real time. And sometimes what we'll do to change it up is we'll have some guest people on. As you can see, we got probably one of the most knowledgeable guys here in the industry today. So if you guys have any questions in regards to starting your own spray business or general DIY lawn maintenance, or getting more into the sciencey type stuff, then this is your guy right here. And I'm just happy that I have this show, because we're at a point now where this is at your fingertips, man. If you want to ask John something, if you want to ask me something, type it in the comments and we'll be here to answer it for you. So that is what I'm trying to do here. So let me, God, it doesn't want to pop up. Here. Oops, typing. Wow.
The kitty's enjoying some
I don't know.
pop.
Yep. Hold on.
Hey, Eric, I did just see that comment. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. We'll have to see. I don't know.
Let's see what else we got here. Well, what new DIY products do you guys got coming out for next season? We were actually talking about this on the way here.
Yeah, I can't fully announce that yet. I kind of have to wait. There are some big things coming that you'll see announcements on in January. So we'll be way out ahead of the season, and giving a lot more flexibility for a lot of you guys out there. So you'll have to wait. I can't let the cat out of the bag quite yet. So he's gonna eat more popcorn.
Unintended.
That's right. So, stay tuned, everybody. Just watch and see what's happening. But we've got kind of a lot going through here. December's going to be a fairly quiet month, I'd say, around for everybody. And then we are back like full bore on the road as a company starting January 6th. It's just kind of a nonstop blitz at that point. So, Yeah, just, you'll see. Fun stuff
Very
happening.
fun stuff. Yes, Brett, I am in Utah. We're actually in John's home right now. Turf's here, oh, this is a good one. Turf therapy. John, what are the changes to expect while winter is approaching with turf type tall fescue and Kentucky bluegrass in the transition zone? Maryland.
In Maryland, well, I mean, you're both gonna, depending on kind of where you are in there, but both should be going dormant fairly soon. Maybe some of your fescue will hang on a little bit longer. But let it go to sleep. Take a break off the lawn, give it a good feeding, hit it with some in.
Stock it up with
soon.
humic.
Yeah, and
I do over the winter.
yeah, and you know that's a great thing to do to just encourage a little bit more, chelation of nutrients over when the soil starts to warm up back again. But get some in down right now to store it, and it'll help everything pop in the spring.
Yes.
So
Absolutely, that's my big thing, and as you guys have been hearing me preface a lot on the channel, it's the fact that you want to stock your lawn up with nitrogen right now. Typically, one thing that I've learned from John during the prime of the season is that when we are applying NPK to our lawn, we want to take those application rates down a little bit and focus on the broader scope. But this is really the time when you could take advantage of going over the top with it, because it's going to be very beneficial for you as you're stocking up for next season, and it's going to be utilized to its fullest, giving you a nice pop in the spring that sets you apart and a couple of weeks ahead of the competition. So definitely consider this a great time to get some nitrogen down right now. Now, a couple of disclaimers. You want to make sure that you get it done before the ground freezes, right? You don't want to be applying nitrogen to frozen ground, because if you do that, there's so much that can go wrong with it, runoff, it can end up in the storm sewers, or, anyway, you guys get the idea. Just don't apply when the ground's frozen. Common sense. It's not going to get in the ground. Ooh, Jensen, JC the lawn care guy, he's putting you on the spot here. He's like, John, bring out the guitar, let's hear some strums on the acoustic.
I'll bring it out.
All right.
Not afraid.
Maybe that's a good way to wrap it up.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like, as I'm signing off, we can play a little strum or whatever.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
we'll do that. We'll do a little theme music on the end.
All right.
All right.
What is the plant tour for Lawncology going to look like? Doing a shuttle from the hotel, says Brandon Reinschmidt.
Well, we're just basically gonna open it up, and if you need to get a ride down, but there's going to be kind of a lot of us around, so we're just going to bring people down. You can hang out and see what we do down there.
So you're shuttling it like Disneyland?
Not really. No, but there'll be enough of us with cars. If anybody needs a ride, we can help out with that. Now, a couple years ago, when we did it in Atlanta, we actually did rent a party bus one day, drove everybody up to UGA to look at some of where we were doing our turf trials and studies at University of Georgia. And then we took everybody down to the plant, had a big barbecue down there and like a cornhole throw off and all this kind of stuff. This year, we're just opening it up kind of beforehand, because people are going to be driving in from different places and they can just come through. So it's not like it's necessarily an organized event at the plant. We're just going to be there to greet people and take them through and show them the.
This is going to be a real money saver here. Kenny Cooper says, John, use the side-by-side for the shuttle.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That's a trip. I burned through at least half a tank of gas to get down there. Be death by the time you got there.
Did you hear from Connor Ward? What did you guys have for dinner? I actually just got in town an hour and a half ago, so.
No dinner yet.
But we are based on what John's telling me, we are gonna go out on the town. He's gonna take care of me, so.
That's right.
Can't wait for that.
We'll be venturing out.
What a trip for a Lawnfire, the greener lawn. That's right. Oh, by the way, there is something I heard some good things about Jeremy spring business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You
Speaking of which, Jeremy, I'm gonna put you on the spot right now. How come I haven't heard about that? I hear you're killing it, dude. I want to see some content on that spray business, Brad.
Yeah, you went out there and got after it this year.
I heard he closed with 70. I was like, what?
That's pretty
That
good when you have a
fast?
full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, is it just him doing it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's the man. Is Lawncology worth going to if you're not a business owner? I'm a small DIY lawn care YouTuber on the fence about coming. Kind of seems like it's structured more for business.
It is. It is structured more for business.
But you get so much out of it if you are a DIYer.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that it's clear on kind of how we're doing that. So we don't have a DIY track this year. Now last year we had like one night where we got kind of a group together and had people. We're not doing that this year. There are YouTubers out there who are, you know, educators and talking about stuff. You're welcome to come. I'd love to have you. It's a great learning experience, but I'll just sort of give you a heads up. We do run over a ton of stuff on soil, a ton of stuff on applications. We do have some business stuff that we go through. We do talk about advertising, you know, how to build your business, how to grow. We do different round tables about things. There's going to be some interesting ones this year. But then there's more, like we'll do classes on compliance for chemicals and fertilizers and you know, all kinds of stuff. But it is, it's truly an industry educational experience. And, you know, if you're mainly just, you know, spraying stuff around the lawn, that's not really the best, this isn't the best one for it. I would rather do classes like that as in meetup form. I think it's a little bit better because it is, you know, it's more of a business track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But me not having a business and going to it, I picked up so much insight that I never would have gotten anywhere else. Like, you talked a lot about soil science while we were there. You also talked about the state of the industry. It was some good stuff. I loved it.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
And we'll have some different things too. I mean, because there's like some software guys coming this year.
Real Green.
Real Green will be there. Kendall is coming from LawnBot, which is going to be really cool, kind of to show his AI thing. There's equipment guys that are going to be there. There's a lot. There's a lot happening. And we always have our there's chemical reps that show up that do presentations as well. So you know, if they're promoting anything new or you know just have general questions about their lines, we have all of that answered. So it encompasses like every portion of a lawn care side.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Is gypsum good to put on your lawn? I hear that's more like a neutralizer for pH.
It is. It's a good form of calcium with sulfur. It's generally safe if you've got like a higher pH soil that needs calcium, rather than lime. Doing lime to bring pH up, it's kind of will buffer it down like a little bit just because of the sulfur fraction.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good. It's good if you have a calcium deficiency. Sure, absolutely.
What cultivars of grass seed for northern lawns give the darkest green? See, do you have an answer for this one?
It's kind of a.
Because if not, Chris Elms is his guy.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is I think that for most, like running with like a midnight blue is just fantastic. Just a good, deep, dark color. I think that puts off one of the best colors that you can do is midnight bluegrass.
Speaking of bluegrass, I actually got some Chris that I'm going to be winter dormant seeding on my back lawn. And then along with that, like I said, we got the big project that we're going to be doing. I don't want to spoil that here because there's tons more to come from the big Basaga project that I'm working on, where we're actually going to be doing some stuff that we typically wouldn't do during the winter. Let's just say that. Stay tuned. But yeah, for the most part, I am looking forward to trying out that appellation and seeing how it improves the overall color and density of my turf in the back, because it hasn't been overseeded in quite some time. But it's still standing strong because it was seeded from the get-go. Now, that is something that I can get into, and that's probably a good rabbit hole for another time, because I don't want to take some of John's airtime here. That's why we're here. So let's
Popcorn Lawnfires.
Popcorn Lawnfires, that's right. Did John go see the winner of his 10K contest lawn, and what is his plans on that?
No, that'll be something that bring. So John Kane sent me some pictures of his stuff. We'll be connecting here. You know, he also does have a full-time job. Best time for us to connect is on weekends. But now everything's kind of shutting down. So we'll be doing a lot of stuff on that as spring comes around, and I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be pretty fun.
Ooh, Lambert wants to know how much nitrogen per year on warm season turf.
Trick question. So, I'm assuming that, are you Bermuda or are you St. Augustine? What are you doing? Where are you located? It really just kind of depends. Soil type is gonna be, a lot of what can dictate that. Typically, if you look up, what is suggested, you're gonna be between 4 and 6 pounds of N on warm season turf is pretty standard. The companies that I deal with that are running warm season turf in Florida and Georgia and places like that, we don't tend to exceed about 2.5 pounds. Highest is about 2.7. So, depending on how robust the rest of your program is, you can get your nitrogen levels down. But 4 to 6 is what's generally recommended. I just never go that high.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because another factor that comes into it too, and John actually brought this to my attention when I was learning about lower N inputs and building the soil, is the comparison between mulching your clippings and bagging your clippings, right? I think one of the things you prefaced a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people who know John know this too, is the fact that when you're bagging your clippings, you don't realize how much nutrient value you're taking away. And when you're taking all of that away, that's more that you have to compensate for. And that's typically why most universities are gonna recommend 4 to 6 pounds of nitrogen a year, right?
Well, actually, I mean, there's a few different reasons, and a lot of the stuff, in general, when studies are done, it's done on like performance turf, athletic turf for the most part. And the base underneath that material could be, sand, like they're doing it like on a greens type basis. It could be anything. But you're talking about like little 3x3 sections, little tiny grids that are put out and products put down. But in general, finding the maximum threshold has been sort of the name of the game.
Right.
So when you're pushing everything to the max before damage, that's where you've hit. Is like when you start to go up into those upper levels of higher in loads, it's right before it starts to become detrimental to the turf. So there is a middle road, right?
Okay.
And in some of the early studies that we did in like Auburn, they were testing like how much like grass clippings were coming off. So I know that in their studies, they're measuring the weights of what's being cut and pulled away anyway,
Right.
not being recycled, and then running it on their typical program. So there's a lot of variables that go into those studies, and you kind of have to set them up
Right.
correctly.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you 100% because it's a big misconception in the industry. You really don't need that much. You need to focus on building the quality of that soil. I 100% live and die by that rule now, thanks to John.
Oh, well, that's fun.
I love the humble response.
It just doesn't take much. I mean, once
It really doesn't.
you stay on task, you stay up with your mowing, once everything kind of finds an equilibrium, it doesn't take much. I think I finished my year out with 1.1 pounds.
It's not bad.
No, and kept it at like, sports turf length for a year, half an inch. I did fine.
Speaking of which, this is another good question that I have. What if I wanted to take, say, that front patch of my lawn? What if I wanted to start taking a blower? How would you go about doing that?
So, when I visited Ryan North this summer, we talked about that too, because he ended up taking his back lawn down, and it was a good, thick, well-branched bluegrass, kind of blend in the back, and
Right.
You have to. I mean, you can go back there and you could just scalp it. You could do that, but what I've found is it's better to bring it down faster, like taking off like a half an inch every few days, and you just stay consistent with that.
Mm-hmm.
Come here, boy. You want to be on the camera for a second? You gonna say hi to everybody? See that camera? That's live. That's YouTube live. You wanna say hi or not? Okay. Do you need anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Man, I don't care. It's real life.
Yeah, they'll come and hang out.
So yeah, that's a good point because I actually want to experiment with that in front.
Mm-hmm. just slowly, you know, every other day or so, you just take a little out, just take a little out, take a little out.
Right.
And it retrains the turf. You know, you'll get down into the sort of thicker, sort of stocky area of the turf grass where it's branching. So you have bluegrass?
Yeah, bluegrass.
Yeah. So, you know, the way that it forms is kind of has to reset where its
Right.
leaf height is. And then you can keep it there. It's really not that difficult, but you have to stay on it. That's what I tell
Right.
everybody. If you're not mowing every other day, really, you'll end up damaging the grass because when you're talking about a 1/2 inch cut, and in a normal week, bluegrass can grow like 1.5 inches, right? Especially in the springtime, 2 inches, 2.5 inches. So if it grows to 1 inch, you're gonna cut 50% of it, right? Like you don't wanna do that, so you have to be on it, you have to be on it. So you're cutting off 1/4 inch, like, and there were times a year where I did it every day. I'd roll out there and it would cut off, quarter to, you know, sometimes 1/8 of an inch, but that's what kept it clean.
Right. And that's another big thing that I would like to achieve too, because as you guys have seen my bluegrass, there's one thing I really don't like about it. It's the fact that when it gets tall, it's what I call fine and flexible, right? Like when you walk on it, it's very easy to overdo it with the foot traffic. Like it's very easy for that grass to lay over. It's just a
Sure.
very fine blade, if you will, right? Whereas fescue's more rigid. It doesn't do that. So fescue cut at a taller height just makes sense. But bluegrass, I want to take mine down for a couple of reasons. And I'm just talking about the front section here. I don't have the time and resources to be doing my entire yard. But the reason I want to do it mainly is because I want to thicken that canopy, right? I have a couple of areas where clover and ground ivy break out. And it's nothing major. I've gotten it under control with good cultural practices, like I always preface. But it's something that I want to start approaching in more of a cultural, natural way.
Sure.
And the fact that it's available to me, I'm going to take advantage of it. And it's more content I get to make, so why not? I always tell that to people too, right? Like I try to look for the optimism in everything.
That's right.
Like, Mike, listen, you're going to love this. And you guys too. You guys have been following me on Instagram, know that oh, is that a room though?
Yeah, I gotta go turn that. No, we're getting snuck up on by a vacuum.
That's funny.
I'm gonna go turn that thing off.
Okay.
The robots are cleaning the house. Wow. There we go. You can sit there for a minute.
Okay. So as I was saying, man, I lost my train of thought. We were too busy talking about
Ground ivy, cultural practices.
Yeah, cultural practices, right. So, man, I lost it. I was gonna tell this great story about how I got. Oh yeah. Now I know what I was gonna tell you. So, I always look for the optimism I always look for the optimism in things that are outside the traditional rules in lawn care, right? Like don't drive on your lawn, don't walk on your lawn over winter. Speaking of that, this past week, my neighbor, Silverback, and myself, I was actually talking to John about this in the car, we had this lady on our street, had this giant oak tree fallen over from a giant windstorm that we had in October. So we went over there, took advantage, and took all that wood. In that process, because we really didn't have a whole lot of room to store it in our basement, which is what we typically do, we take it to the backyard. And instead of walking all the way in that side yard, because you guys who watch, you know that side yard I have, right? Where I have to walk all the way back to the gate with a wheelbarrow back. Instead of doing that, I just let my neighbor drive his truck all the way up. I let him back his bed all the way up to my gate, and we were literally just walking 10 feet there and back with wheelbarrows. It saved us a lot of time. And he was like, oh, you know, Jake, I don't want to mess your grass up or anything. I'm like, dude, go ahead. It's more, you know why? It keeps me in business. If I have a perfect lawn all the time, how am I going to make money? I mean, I know that sounds kind of greedy, but at the same time, you got to have that mentality, right? Like, how am I going to keep this channel new? How am I going to keep it fresh? Well, the way I do it is I just let people do whatever they want to the yard, and then I make a video about it. That's how it works.
Does, you know, dealing with the average day-to-day stresses, I think is really important. And honestly, that was something that I came to this year as well. It started to get kind of monotonous up on that patch of turf because it was in such good shape
Right.
that I was like, I physically damaged it on purpose a couple of times just so I had something to do.
Just have fun.
But that's great once you can get to that point and enjoy it in such a way. That's kind of the beauty. Is one thing I will say is that lawn got so much traffic because so many people were over here. It was like weekends you came over here and played cornhole, and it just never had any issues. But that's what the lawn, to me, that's what the lawn's for. That's a play space. It's beautiful. I want to go up there and chip with my wedge and, to throw cornhole and throw frisbees, and the kids are scraping their feet and running around. And, and it just looks nice.
Right.
But really, it's a functional space for me. It's not just like a frame for my house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it was, it'd get boring.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it probably would, because if you were doing the same set program after a certain amount of time, it would get boring. That's all I could say.
Well, I had customers in my spray service years ago, however long it's been now, 15, 17 years, that they didn't really ever use their lawn. It was gorgeous, right? But so they would have like a walkway to a patio, and like this space that they used in their backyard, but they would like never go out on it. They had lawn services to cut it. The weeds were taken care of, the grass was green, but they weren't out there in the lawn, but everything was perfect. Just because that's what they enjoyed. It wasn't, they didn't need a lawn to play in, they wanted it to frame their life. And so I think that, you have to sort of figure out what you really are trying to get out of it to set your goals.
Well, sorry I kind of went off on there. I had to kind of converse with John because I am here for a little amount of time, and we're taking advantage of every time we got, just chatting it up, catching up. But I would like to get back to the questions because you guys are asking some really good questions. In fact, I really like these tonight. So let me go ahead and just catch up. Man, they're flooding in like crazy tonight. Okay. In Northern California, my turf-tied tall fescue never really goes dormant.
Right.
What would be the best to do during the winter besides mow weekly? Getting occasional frost, but the ground never freezes.
Okay, I don't know if you can answer this right now on where you are in Northern California.
You can continue to feed, like occasionally, depending on where you are though, it's very wet. So I lived in Santa Cruz for a while, so I guess the northernmost part of Central California, and rainy season started around October 31st, and then it just would pour for the rest of the time. So it really kind of depends on where you are. My grass never went dormant there, but I didn't really bother to feed it during that time because it wasn't necessarily actively growing. So depending on the base on what you're growing on currently, where I was very sandy. The whole area was these old sand dunes, and it was wonderful to put humic down at that time, or anything. If you're going to be using like carbon-based anything over the winter times in California is good if you're on the sand side. But again, it kind of depends on where you are. So if he says, I could probably dial that down a little bit more.
Okay. Let's see. Zoe, South Alabama, Lambert 1702. Shane Davis, I have small patches of tall fescue. Can I keep broadcasting blue year after year and try choking out all the tall fescue? That's a good one.
Yeah, you can try.
I mean, you might get somewhere.
Yeah.
You might. Just gotta.
You might actually have a better chance if you really scalp it down. Try to let it burn up.
Yeah.
It might be your best
Because
option.
one of the biggest things with fescue too is its root system is deep, right? You need to take that into consideration. So maybe even that cutting might not be enough to do it. You might even have to kill off those areas. I hate to say it, but that might be the only option. But in the meantime, yeah, just start cutting it lower, keep on it, right? Because you never know what can happen. But if it's too severe to the point where you really can't do much because the root system is so deep and it has an establishment, then you need to just go towards nuclear options and nuke it out.
Well, okay, so then there's another side to that too, and it's basically the salad bar theory. You can have a lawn that is so full of crap, like loaded with crap, and if you just keep cutting it and keep cutting it and keep cutting it, it will change, but from a distance, you can't tell. If everything maintains the same height, it kind of has a good,
I
consistent
agree
look
with you
about
on
it.
that.
But if you stay up on your cutting, you just keep doing that, you'll change what grows in whatever lawn space you're dealing with.
I agree with that 100%, especially after last year where I mowed every 2 days, nonstop. I mowed my grass every 2 days, the bluegrass up front. I also mowed it shorter than normal because I was trying to choke out some quackgrass.
You were at like 2.5?
No, I wasn't that low. I was at like 3
3, okay.
because my lawn's always been cut tall. But 3 was like that happy medium for me because it wasn't really low to the point where it was exposing the undulations.
Yep.
But it wasn't too high to the point where the grass would lay over easily. In fact, I noticed a significant improvement in the density once I started doing that.
Yeah.
And after cutting it every 2 days, it even started to grow faster. Because I was nonstop with this. It was like a marathon for me the entire year. Within 2 days, this is the mow height, and this is where the grass should grow to. And I'd be like, wait a minute, this is crazy. At this point, I might need to start mowing every day. But it's amazing what proper cultural practices can do.
Absolutely.
And I try to preface that a lot. A lot of people overthink this. I want you guys to realize that if you have a crap patch, right, you don't necessarily have to nuke it. I mean, that's what a lot of people might do, and if you want to do that, that's fine. Knock yourself out. It's your lawn. But if you really want to go on more of a conservative route, there is faith there. You just need to stay committed, and you need to be patient, right? You need to be patient. You need to be there for the long game. If you are, it will come.
So I think that is very, very wise, and it's all too common that people are looking for the silver bullet. What's the one thing I can do?
Right.
There isn't a one thing. There isn't a one thing. You know, like you've got to stay consistent, and it's just like working out. It's just like eating. You know, you've got to stay on it. You've got to just have your routine, and you have to stay active, or you will not see the gains. So, you know, there's plenty of people who their lawns are fed one time a year. And it's like springtime, they just go put fertilizer out and that's it. And that's all they really care about, and that's fine for them. But will they ever have this, like, do they have the goals of attaining, like, whatever it is, the perfect green space, or have the passion to do it? No. It's just a thing. And then they'll mow it whenever they mow it and occasionally squirt a week.
Right, exactly.
You know? So really, I guess everybody needs to come up with what their end game is before they start.
Right.
What's your goal? If my goal is here, then I'm going to take steps working backwards, and then here's where I'm coming from. So I start here to get to there, but I know that once I'm there, I did this to get there. And it's work. It's work, but it's fun. Very rewarding.
Very rewarding. I agree with you on that because my end goal was just to get my lawn looking more consistent, right? Because my bluegrass, one problem I had with it is just because I cut it so tall and it wasn't really made to be cut tall, is all the layover because I let it be vulnerable to all the foot traffic. So it would lay over, and on top of that, I would have some areas that would grow more than others, especially because of those Bradford pears that I told you about, right?
Yep.
Those things are nutrient hogs, man. But that's another rant for another time, man. Those things, but to sum it up, those things are a nutrient hog. They are a pain to deal with because their root systems, they grow out, right? That's how they are. They don't really reflect the tree very much, but they just grow out. So this whole front section of my lawn has that stress to deal with in the summer. And when I was cutting it taller, that really showed. But once I started cutting it lower and more often, which stimulated more growth in those areas, then I noticed a significant improvement in the density, the consistency. Basically, my lawn started to look more like carpet, right? That was my end goal, was to get my lawn to look like carpet, and I achieved it just by taking my cultural practices up a notch and doing my homework.
Can we just take a minute to acknowledge Jake's sweet stash he's got going?
Yeah, yeah.
Sweet.
As a matter of fact, for those of you guys.
Go show it off.
Ryan, Nora, and I, man, the Fuzz Stash Club, right? Look at that.
That is nice.
It's a.
That's a commitment right there.
Commitment, yeah.
He's been working years for that.
Do you know how many? Do you know how much crap girls are giving me at school? And you know what? I love it because I'll shoot it right back at them. You know, I'm doing it for a campaign. I'm supporting cancer.
Oh, I thought you were talking about their mustaches.
Yeah. I'd be like, yeah, I'm doing it for a campaign, and they'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, right? They
Yeah,
start to feel
sorry.
guilty.
Yeah. Well,
That's my favorite.
I guess I don't know how many people watching are participating in the Movember thing. It is interesting to become a mustachioned person because there is definitely some funny comments that come alongside of it a lot. But it is fun. It's generated some good conversations, and you know, people get it. In fact, I've seen more mustaches around my town than I ever have. And now, when people look at it, like if I meet somebody, they're like, "Oh, are you doing that thing?" Like, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah.
In the end, you're raising awareness for a really good cause.
That's right.
That's what I like about it. Matt DeGoyer, is it true that a growth regulator increases turf density and root mass? What is John's opinion on this way of impeding top growth?
Yeah, I've actually had this conversation with a few different people, and Matt, I don't, let's see how I could do this. Yes, it does slow down overall top growth, and the design is to help the turf spread. Now, here's just my opinion, and I've had conversations on the lawn forum about this as well, but oftentimes people are applying PGRs at certain times of year where they're either going to be away from turf or they're just doing heavy feedings and they just want to slow it down. I have always maintained that if you feed on a lower end program, you don't have to use a PGR. There's really not a reason to add an extra step if you're already cutting down what forces top growth anyway. And if your cultural practices are right and you're mowing regularly and everything else, your turf canopy will spread. And I want to try to put this in perspective for everyone. Think of rose bushes. Just think of rose bushes for a second. You know, when you trim those down, you trim them at certain forks and where they branch, and that allows that plant to spread so that you get more blooms the next year rather than these tall, spindly, spiky stems, right? Like, so turf is no different. If you think about shrubs and anything else, as you cut them down, the branching height changes and they get more bushy rather than stringy. It's the same thing on your turf. That's just how plants react. So, I mean, I've never used PGRs, not one time in my life. I don't necessarily have anything against them. I just have never seen or needed the reason. I know, and in golf, we've done quite a bit with greens programs. They get rid of it. They don't have to use those PGRs anymore once they've been running, like on our 501 program and stuff. It's just not necessary because we're not pushing the growth.
That's a good way to look at it. It's a little more conservative too. I like that because not only are you splitting the amount you're putting down, but you're also splitting the cost. And I think that's very important, right? Why would you spend all that money when you don't have to? You know, that's how I look at it. I mean, if there's any way that you can get your lawn to look good for a lower price, man, sign me up.
Yeah, and again, you know, a lot of this stuff, and I think that people who watch these channels and see, you know, we're out there trying to do something pretty much every week, you know, doing something to the lawn. So it remains consistent. Like if you have the ability to mow every week or every couple of days, it's not that hard to add another piece into that routine. If you're already going to be out there, you know, spraying something or spreading something, whatever it is. So, you know, there's more. It's not like, you know, we're putting one thing down and then waiting 10 weeks and then putting another thing down and waiting to, you know, there's not that happening. A lot of what it seems to, and I could be wrong about this, I probably am, but when you're watching some of the lawn care channels and what people are doing, there's a much more of an adopted sort of greens program happening because it is this weekly it's adjusting for the time of season, it's making changes regularly to maintain this health and beauty, rather than a set it and forget it.
Right, because I actually had one guy in here, oh boy, here we go. Yard mama.
Hey, Tammy.
That's great. She's like, yep, I'm that one happy year person.
Well,
It's
she got centipede.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's centipede. I think one of your best quotes on centipede is that when you stare at it long enough, it dies.
Yeah, I will. You can't stare at it too long. It'll get really nervous and go underground.
That's a great nickname. Dead-eye centipede. That's a good way to remember it. Dead-eye centipede. Central Indiana here. Omar Garcia. Welcome to the club, man. I'll tell you what. The more Hoosiers we can get in here, the better, because Utah is starting to become a very dense state for lawn guys, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to hang out with all you guys because I didn't know all the details ahead of time. But next time I'm here, I'd love to hang out with all of you. But we need to densen up the lawn population in Indiana. I think that's a must.
Yeah.
You know, Indiana is a big lawn state, especially with bluegrass and rye. You have so much potential there in the summertime. If you irrigate properly, if you mow it properly, you fertilize it properly, you have so much potential. So if there's any of you Indiana lawn guys out there, please start making content. I want to see more of what you're dealing with out here. Please.
Speaking of his trip here, I'm trying to convince him and his dad to come out as soon as he graduates from high school and spend a week out here so that we can actually get out on some lawns and have a little fun. So it's not like, snowy dead zone around here right now.
Man, I'll probably be able to do it. It's just that at the end of June, I'm going to see Aiden.
That's fine.
For 5 days, so maybe we can do it a couple of weeks in advance.
Man, figure it out. Spring break. That's a bad time. There's a lot of snow here.
Yeah, spring break. I don't know about spring break. I'd like to come out here and not have school.
Yeah, that'd be better.
So maybe,
Yeah, June or July.
Yeah, June or
July's
July.
great. July's a great time to be here, but then we can have all kinds of fun.
you know what? Here's what I'm thinking: 4th of July lawn guy party.
Yeah, we can do that.
Let's do it.
The 4th of July party here at my house is fantastic.
That would be awesome.
With all the decks on the front, we can watch all the fireworks.
Band over here. That would be fun.
Yeah, they have the band. We'll fire it all up. It'll be a good time. It'll probably be a pretty fun 4th of July party this year.
JP Show Pro, man, don't take offense to it. I get so many comments coming in here. Didn't mean to miss you, but I'll gladly go up and answer. Guys, when are your products coming to Toronto, Canada?
Oh, Canada. Can't answer that. I have been talking to some people lately about moving some things in, so I'll just have to wait and keep you posted on that. So hang tight. A lot of that is demand. Knowing that it's worth the time, energy, and effort to make sure that we're going to be selling a lot of stuff in there. And the only thing that really concerns me, if I'm being honest, is shipping it in. Just the cost can be high, so I want to make sure that we're, really being responsible with our customers as far as that's concerned.
You can come over here. There's nothing wrong.
Yes.
It's not that type of show.
Hello, Robert. Yeah.
If it makes you feel any better, we got 15 more minutes.
I can take you in 15 or 20 minutes. You want to call? What time's their play? Oh, it's 7? Where? I won't make it that. Okay, I'll check in with her.
Take a ski lift. Do you have a lot of those out here?
Ski lifts?
Yeah.
Oh my God, 50 of them right across the way here.
Man, I'm not like Al. I'm ready to raise that safety bar.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, we have just what you were looking at off my front deck here. That's all part of the Park City ski area. There's 330 runs over there.
Yeah.
40 chairlifts right there. And then Deer Valley, if we just turn slightly to the left, they've got another 18 chairlifts or something. And I don't know how many runs, 180 or something.
Yeah, so we got big plans for tomorrow, actually. We got a little festivity we're going to pick up.
That's right.
You guys can solve that riddle on your own. But on top of that, man, I hope we can go on a hike or something in the mountains. That'd be freaking cool.
Oh yeah, you'll be right there, buddy.
All right.
You'll be right up in the wilds.
Because I didn't bring this camera for no reason. I'm here to shoot some B-roll.
Get some cinematic shots.
Yep, cinematic shots.
That'd be great.
Gotta make my buddy Peter McKinnon proud. Army football, I love this guy. Just the name. I put fertilizer with prodiamine in New York State a few weeks back. The bag said it would last up to 5 months, but with the ground freezing next month, it seems it should last until June. True.
Questionable. So I've done fall applications of prodiamine. I always tend to follow up again in the spring anyway. Yeah, I mean, you'd be probably best off, you'll cover off some of the early potential crabgrass germination, but you're gonna wanna hit it again in mid-spring anyway to get you through sort of some summertime stuff, or switch out to a different pre-emergent to cover some other weeds would probably be a better option.
Gotcha. Hey, this is another good one, and I think this might apply to me if I start mowing lower. For John, I'm experimenting cutting my KBG with a Fisco reel. I noticed a washboard effect.
Yes.
What would you do about that?
Okay, so you have to cross cut. That's really all there is to it. So your blade spins at a certain rate. There's an RPM that it maintains as it covers distance. There is a gap, and it sort of pinches as it cuts. So you get little waves. And the only way to really, well, there's a couple of things. If you cut it more often, you won't see that. That usually happens when it's just slightly longer and you cut it. But if you cross cut and go the opposite direction, you can clean most of that up.
I agree with you on that. In fact, that's more of a general rule of thumb that I advocate 100%, because as you guys have seen on, say, my project lawn that I'm doing with the Saga family, Rich has that giant slope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I've ever shown on video how he mows that. So basically what he does, he's got like a 46-inch Cub Cadet, and he doesn't go up and down, he goes with it, right? So he just leans the opposite way to hold it up. It's the funniest thing when you're there in person. I'm like, dude, you realize it's deadly? And he's like, yeah, but it saves time. Anyway, you do what you gotta do. What I suggest for that though, and I told him, I was like, if you can't change it up, then maybe at least change your overlap up a little bit, right? Like maybe do 50% 1 week, and then like tire to tire the next. And that way you're not getting these ruts in the yard that lay over. Because a lot of people who cut with tractors, that's the biggest mistake they make. Like I have this one lawn down the street from me that always cuts in a circle, right? And they go the same direction. So it's like laying away from you on one side, so it's super white and it's super dark on the other. Yeah. And every time I walk by that yard, it looks good from afar. Like the stripes are beautiful. Like literally, it's just one big stripe.
Yes, two.
But when you get down and look at it, it's suffering, dude. There's so much fungus building up. There's so much being suffocated. The turf isn't as thick as it looks. It kind of goes back to that paradox of things aren't as they seem, right? Like it may look good, but deep down the lawn is struggling. And that's kind of like when you overdo it with nitrogen.
Good from far, far from good.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's another good one.
That's one thing, especially in sports fields, soccer fields, football fields that are using natural turf, and a lot of like municipalities, because kids grind down into and just kick grass out all the time.
Yeah.
So in dealing with some of that stuff in certain areas and playability of turf, the denser root system allows for faster recovery. And, if you're staying on a fairly traditional, like pounding the ground, it does get the grass to grow fast, but if it doesn't have a foundation, it doesn't recover. And so, there's some changes there that are being made in a lot of, in that sort of professional sports turf to be more,
To be like genetically tolerant, right?
well, I mean, if your practices are right, you get better recovery.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. Because, like I was saying earlier, basic concept, change up your mowing directions. It helps. Because the idea is that no matter how tall or how short your grass is, you wanna make sure that you're changing that up every once in a while, because the goal is for that grass to stand up straight, not necessarily to train it like your hair. You understand what I'm saying? So make sure that you're changing those mowing directions every second mowing ideally. I understand if you can't do it all the time, especially if you have a big property, right, and you wanna redefine those stripes. I understand that, I'm guilty of it. Then maybe just do 2 mowings in the same direction and change them up every second or third mow, that's it. That's what I would do. Oh, one more about soil testing, I wanna go into this too. John, is it okay to pull soil samples while the ground is still frozen?
Absolutely.
He says I applied humic, RGS, green punch, 0.5% nitrogen, and,
0.5% or half pound.
yeah, half pound, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad, I screwed that up. 4 ounces of green effect last week, and the lawn looks great.
Good. Yeah, I would imagine that's a big hit. That's like a power punch.
Right.
But don't do a soil test now. That wouldn't be great, wait 6 or 8 weeks. Maybe do it in January, pull it out. And
When
send
the
it in.
ground's a little softer too?
Well, I mean, if you put a bunch of stuff out and then do a test, you're gonna get the readings of whatever you put out. So,
Not so much the natural state.
correct. Yeah, what would be
Okay.
sort of stasis. And, so you wanna read at a distance between a feeding.
That's understandable, I agree with that 100%. We're almost done here, we got about 10 more minutes. And then we gotta go get some dinner. 'Cause I'm
Grubbing.
starving. Yep, we gotta grub.
Get some grub on.
My fall overseed was not as robust as I planned, since we saw a very cold snap. And I was and it was so, not so successful. Yeah, a lot of people, they miswrite these sometimes. Can I overseed in the early spring and after a couple of mows, apply a weed pre-emergent? Matt, I've touched on this a lot. If you're going to use like a high-end product like prodiamine or dithiopyr, it's a decision you have to make, because those products have high concentration, high residual, and because of that, the benefits are going to work against you as they're going to hinder the development of your new grass. So you kind of have to look at it in a business perspective. Like, what's your opportunity cost? What are you going to give up? Would you rather increase your turf density, or would you rather prevent the weeds? It's just a matter of which one is more severe. Wouldn't you say the same thing?
Yeah, I would actually go for the growth first. There's a time to sort of bite the bullet and say, look, I need this to grow in. I'll be spot spraying some weeds this year.
Yeah.
But you gotta get your turf up. Because if there is an open space, you're gonna get weeds. And if you put the pre-emergent out, you're not gonna get your seed to germinate anyway. And then by the time you can, then weeds are gonna be able to do it also. So you're just gonna, that's an endless loop.
Mm-hmm.
I would go for the seeding early on, get it out and cover it up, let it germinate, hopefully get out ahead of it, and then, hope that you don't get a ton of other crap in there ahead of time. I can touch on that. So I did that one seeding project, and I should update everybody on that. I just haven't gone back there with the camera. So the backyard came in great, apart from one area where there was one different sprinkler head that sort of shot over everything. So that's gonna have to be fixed next year, but there's a perfect half moon where the grass didn't grow around one head.
Mm-hmm.
The front yard got repeatedly devastated. Started to come up, and we had 4 days of hard frost, knocked everything back. Came back and reseeded, and then the water main broke in the front, and heavy equipment was put all over the front of that thing, and no water was put to it, so it's gonna take a little time to grow back in the spring, but there's nothing else I can do the season in too fast.
Right.
So that was just an unfortunate turn of events on that whole thing.
I would get over there and get it on video though.
Yeah, winter.
Winter.
Yeah, silly. But I mean, the seed is still there. Seed is still there, and in the spring, it's just gonna
It's just
come
gonna
up. Yeah, it'll just
I agree
jump.
with you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Indiana Lawn Guide, the Mott, Indiana. You know what, James Milton? Man, I used to go to that area all the time. My grandma used to have a trailer park out. She used to live in one of the, well, she didn't live, but she had like a little summer trailer out there that we would go to. I think it was called Rose Lawn. That was the name of the campground. The name of the campground was Lake Holiday. They had like an awesome lake, water slides, campers. It was a fun thing. But then, you know, she's not there anymore just because of time. But yeah, so I'm very familiar with that area. So that's pretty cool, man, that you're close. It's funny, that's when I get in here, it's amazing how many lawn guys there are in Indiana. Never really realized it because there's not a whole lot of people by me, except for John Pajak,
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Jack!
the life of the party.
That's right.
What up, my brother, Double T? Double T, what's that referencing? I have no idea. Turf therapy, just happy, it's Friday, bro. Got a fun day planned tomorrow, can't wait. It's awesome, man, we do too. And the best part about it too is that there's gonna be a video recapping the whole thing next Monday. Not this Monday, we already got a video for this Monday, by the way, so don't worry about that. That's done, scheduled to go. But next Monday, we'll be recapping the trip and all the fun things that we have planned. It's gonna be a good time, so I suggest you tune in for that. More details on that later. Is John Perry pro or anti-lawn stripes? Does he keep his lawn striped?
No, I actually don't, just because my reel mower does not stripe, and it's so short.
Right.
Now, if I go to the power reel, it will stripe it, because it'll have a kind of a roller kit with it, but the one that I use, it won't do, it makes everything even, I mean, very even, it doesn't lay anything over. But I think stripes are great. I mean, when I had like my Honda that I used to mow with all the time, I always striped out my lawn every single time I did it, but this is just different, doing it how I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest though, your lawn looks better uniform.
Oh, it is a carpet.
It is.
And, you know, I had like a lot of construction going on at my house, and people, when they would come, they would look out there and say, everybody thought it was artificial turf. And I was like, you gotta come up and check it out, and they would just be like,
What the? Yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
The best is when it is real.
Yeah.
Because you get up there and you realize, man, not only does it look good, but it feels good on your feet. Like
Oh, yeah.
You've worked for something that you can enjoy. And that's what I like about this industry, right? Is that we're all working for something that we not only get to look at, but we get to physically enjoy it with our feet. That's my favorite part. At the end of a long day, like I'll kick my shoes off, stick my toes in there. It's kind of like a lot of people dipping their toes in the sand, except for me in Northwest Indiana, it's my lawn, and that's 8 months out of the year, and it's just nothing better. There's no feeling that's better than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a couple more, and then we gotta get off here because you and we gotta go to dinner, and we got some big plans for tomorrow. Gotta rest up, and so we'll take a couple more, and then I believe John wants to play us out.
Oh, I gotta get my guitar, huh?
And it'd make it like a quick minute or something. I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
Just amaze me.
Amazing. Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? I'll entertain you.
That's right.
Whoa. Okay, here's another good one. You didn't answer my question, bro. Sorry, Mr. Garcia. I was too busy catching up with John here. It's just it happens, man. When you have a time limit and you haven't seen your good friend in a while, you're catching up with them.
It's been a month.
Yeah, and by the way, if I didn't get your question, you can always email me and I'll get back to you. But I do want to answer this one because I feel bad for missing your question. Will my KPG make it over the winter since it's dormant before I could cut it? Yes.
Of course. That's what it does
It's grass,
naturally.
man. Listen, as Alan used to tell me all the time, it lives on the highway with no one's help.
Yeah. I will tell you this, depending on how long it was, you know, if you go back and look at my early videos from this year after I got back from overseas and how piled up and matted my turf was, it did not get cut going into the winter, and it was long. So last year, I kept my grass at like 3.5 inches all year. I kept it long, and it was great. No big deal, but you know, I only had to cut it like every 2 weeks.
Cutting, and you were doing that with a reel mower?
Yeah.
I didn't know a reel mower could go that high. I thought it was 2.5.
That stupid Scots one. Yeah, it was dumb. I mean, it might have actually been like 2 3/4, but I kept it long, and it didn't cut it well. Okay,
Yeah.
let me put it that way. it would just sort of catch what was standing up. So it always was just, had a kind of a nice thick layover.
Mhm.
But I was out of town and the season hit fast and we got tons of snow before I had a chance to do anything. So when the grass went under snow, it was almost 6 inches long. It was really long. And so a lot of it broke. It broke and it piled up in the spring. And so it was just like everywhere, just broken, laying around. And that's why I burned it all down.
You know, just to get a little input on that from my point of view, I thought that was a pretty impressive comeback,
The
right?
burn,
Like the lawn was just in the winter. I was like, man, I can't wait to see how you tackle this, right? Because literally within 8 weeks, you told me 8 weeks, you had it looking pristine.
yeah, it didn't take that long. And it was battling weather like I couldn't believe. It was snow consistently up until June. But I started that process in April.
Yeah.
And by June, aside from the pot guts, the ground squirrels that were up there, that was the only thing I had to deal with. And that was fun. But they went away and they didn't come back, but they'll be back in the spring.
Yeah, they'll be back.
They'll be back. They're not.
Did that noisemaker do anything?
It did. It helped to, so not from a distance, but if I would put it in an area that was greatly affected, they came back to, they would go off of that spot. And so I could kind of chase them around a little bit. But I ended up gassing them. I mean, I didn't really, and then burying the holes down. So when I put the trampoline in, I actually ended up crushing a ton of the tunnels in there as well, because I was up there with a big heavy piece of equipment. But they're all over in my neighbor's lawn. They're not lawn, but the property over here. They live under this big tree, and they come over because I have all this sweet, sweet grass.
Right.
And that's just what they want to be on.
Well, that's what they eat too. Like I have them in my backyard too. Except they're not really a big problem in the lawn per se, but it's more so under my giant deck that I have back there. So there's like an area along the edge where the turf is always bare because they're eating and they're digging.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating to deal with, but
So the natural cycle of these guys is that they eat leaves or grass, whatever, until there's seeds on something. And as soon as any other native grasses or anything start to seed, they go away. And they'll just feed off of that because that's what they end up storing up. So there is a cycle, and that's usually around like mid-July that they shift off and kind of do their own thing.
right. So yeah, Omar, don't overthink it, man. That's all I can tell you. It's just don't overthink it because at the end of the day, it is grass, right? It's been around for years.
Just grass.
Just grass. That's right. And what are you doing? Breaking out the guitar?
You got it.
All right. We're wrapping up. So yeah, man. At the end of the day, don't overthink it. It's grass. It's tough. It can take it. If you miss a mowing, it happens. Oh, this ought to be good. Hang on,
What are we doing now?
I'm just gonna film you out.
Oh boy.
So, hang on a second. Because what's nice about this is I could finish off my story for the video the same way. Set the white balance up. There we go. All right, the floor is yours, Johnny.
Floor is mine. Been listening to a lot of Chris Stapleton lately, so I'm gonna just do a little piece of one of my favorite songs here, and then you guys can do whatever you want to do with that. There's a bottle on the dresser by your ring, and it's empty. Right now I don't feel a thing, but I'll be hurting when I wake up on the floor. There ain't a thing that I can do, and that's the difference between whiskey and you. Come tomorrow,
Well, I can walk in any store, it ain't a problem. Well, I'll always buy some more, but your forgiveness, yeah, that's something I can't buy. There ain't a thing that I can do. And that's the difference between whiskey and you. One's the devil, and one keeps driving me insane. At times I wonder if they ain't both the same. One's a liar, helps to hide me from my pain. One's a long gone bitter truth. And that's the difference between whiskey and you. Shortened version.
Nice. All righty.
There you go.
Perfect.
You're welcome, JC.
Yeah, Jensen, you're welcome, buddy. Better appreciate it. I'm just kidding. All right, everybody, that's going to be the end of the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will show you guys how to get the deepest, darkest, greenest, thickest lawn on the block. With that, I'm Jake the Lawn Kid. Thank you for watching. With
See you
JP.
guys.
See you guys. I'll see you guys next time. If I don't see you guys next time, your lawn is going to be dominated. See you later. All right.